The story begins when an average restaurant cook gets summoned to save an isekai world with other heroes. A hooded mage quickly steps up to check the stats of all the heroes, getting impressed by a legendary holy swordsman. Then, he finds 2 expert witches with the power to control powerful elements. And finally, he focuses on Mr. Mukoda, who possesses the awe-inspiring talent of ordering online groceries. Mukoda asks if he has any other skill, but the mage shakes his head, sealing his fate as a magical delivery boy. He tells Mukoda to visit the king to learn about his mission. In the king's room, the fat old monarch tells the heroes to find the demon lord, who is causing trouble for his kingdom of Reincarnated. As the king reveals that the demon lord can send the heroes back, the other heroes quickly agree to fight for him, while Mukoda feels suspicious of his whole story. He asks the old man if he can sit this adventure out and live like the commoner he is, and the king sends him away with some gold coins. Afterward, he heads out to the city, where everyone stares at his weird corporate wage slave suit. Mukoda changes his outfit and rents a room where he checks his stats to learn that he also has a magic storage and appraisal skill. Then, he uses his grocery skill, which opens a holographic online store. He then inserts some money into the screen and buys some quick food to keep him going, thinking that he can make good money as a chef with this skill to leave the plain country. The next morning, Mukoda rushes to catch a carriage to the town of Keels. On the way there, he asks a merchant what he's going to sell, who tells him that he's going to sell a very precious item called soap. Mukoda feels surprised that soap is so precious and asks the man if he stores his goods in a magic storage. However, the merchant tells him that the magic storage skill is very rare, so he has to carry everything around. Then, Mukoda asks him about the appraisal skill and learns that it's a legendary skill that's practically unheard of. The merchant wonders why he's so interested in these rare skills, but Mukoda claims that he was just dreaming. Then, the merchant tells Mukoda that he made a good call going to a border town because the kingdom is soon planning to seal its borders. Once Mukoda gets to Keels, he finds out that the kingdom has banned further carriage services, and a few soldiers tell him that the king is always trying to start wars without reason. Mukoda feels glad that he decided to leave the dangerous country, but wonders how to escape without a ride. He visits an adventurer's guild and asks for some bodyguards, and the receptionist tells him he'll need to offer 7 gold coins for his difficult request. Mukoda feels surprised by the price, but decides it's better to pay than get trapped in a war-torn country. The receptionist accepts his payment and introduces him to the adventurer Werner, who tells him that his party is ready to leave the next morning. The next day, Mukoda sets out for the kingdom of Venan with Werner's party, and they take a break after traveling some distance. As Mukoda sets up his kitchen to cook, the adventurers feel surprised by his magical storage and foreign equipment. He serves them some fresh sandwiches, which they all find incredibly delicious. Werner feels guilty for getting luxurious food for free, but Mukoda tells him it's not a big deal for him. Seeing his friendly response, Werner nods and promises not to poke his nose into Mukoda's secrets. Afterward, the group runs into some bug monsters on the way. Mukoda jumps in fear as a bunch of bug guts land near him, and a party member informs Werner that there's an angry boar up ahead. Werner's team turns the boar into a bunch of pork chops, and Mukoda stores all its meat in his magic storage. Then, he prepares some special pork soup for them, and the team feels their energy recharging from the hearty food. Mukoda wonders why his food is restoring their energy, since he just cooked a normal soup for them. He uses his appraisal skill to check everyone, and spits out his own soup, shocked that his food actually is giving the adventurers a huge stat buff. Thinking that his otherworldly ingredients could also have hidden side effects, Mukoda decides to keep his food sources secret to avoid being turned into a slave. While everyone chows away, a pair of green eyes silently stalks them in the night. The next day, Mukoda cooks everyone a heavy dish of fried pork, which they instantly devour. However, their joy is short-lived as the legendary Fenrir beast appears behind Mukoda. The giant wolf uses its aura points to threaten Mukoda into giving it food, but loses them all as it starts chomping on them like a starving puppy. Mukoda panics while quickly whipping up more batches of meat to satisfy the hungry dog. After emptying all the stocks of Mukoda's food mart, Fenrir stops eating and tells Mukoda that he's surprised he could satisfy it with such a small amount of food. Fenrir tells the exhausted cook that it wants to form a contract with him, but Mukoda feels worried about befriending such a dangerous creature. He tries to decline Fenrir's Fenrir's offer, but the wolf keeps interrupting him, making it clear that he isn't asking for his consent. Mukoda then asks Werner and his scared teammates if it's a good idea to trust the wolf, and finally accepts Fenrir's offer as they nod their heads. Fenrir then calls over Mukoda and presses its head against him, which creates a glowing light that signs their partnership contract. Once the contact is done, Fenrir proudly sits down to rest and orders Mukoda to cook 3 meals for him every day, leaving him completely stunned. Then, Fenrir asks for a new nickname, and Mukoda gives it a dog name like Bob. However, the wolf feels offended that it's getting treated like a house pet and settles for the name Fel. After settling down from their shock, the group starts traveling again, and everyone wonders how they'll enter the border with the massive beast following them. Werner thinks that the Venan royalty will be all over Mukoda, who feels frustrated that he's attracting so much attention. Later, they all settle down for lunch, and Fenrir demands his portion from Mukoda. He tells the big wolf to get its own meat since he doesn't have any ingredients left, and Fel obediently leaves to hunt. Werner's team is surprised that Mukoda can casually order a legendary beast around, but he reminds them that it's only fair that Fel gets the ingredients he wants to eat. Soon, Fel returns with a powerful B-rank rock bird that Werner's party can only dream of touching. Mukoda asks Fel if he can keep the other parts of the bird, and the wolf tells him he can sell everything else as long as the meat ends up in his belly. With his approval, the team skins the bird, and Mukoda cooks the party's lunch. Fel starts getting impatient that he has to wait, but Mukoda reminds him that his giant portions take the longest to cook. After finishing lunch, everyone starts moving towards the border. Mukoda's teammates wonder how the kingdom will react to Fel, who is rumored to have destroyed an entire country out of rage when they finally reach Venan. Mukoda notices the border guards panicking because of Fel, and Werner leaves to explain their situation to them. However, they all end up getting detained by the border guards. The guard captain asks if Fel truly is under Mukoda's control, who asks his pet to explain that he doesn't mean any harm. Fel tells the captain that he won't attack the Venan kingdom if they don't harm his master. So the captain finally allows everyone to enter. Once they're in, Werner warns Mukoda that the Venan kingdom will investigate him because of his extraordinary companion. Mukoda feels upset to get so much attention, but says that he wants to travel the world for sightseeing anyway. So Werner tells him to get an adventurer or merchant license. Mukoda thinks about becoming a merchant, but a party member reminds him that he needs the Adventurer Guild's services to butcher all the monster Fenrir hunts. However, the mage tells Mukoda that he can just register in both guilds at the same time before they start heading into town. Soon, an annoying servant tries to invite Mukoda to meet his master, and he tries to refuse. However, the servant keeps pestering him to come along, so Fel threatens to obliterate his master's entire bloodline, which finally sends him running away. Werner thinks that the noble family might take action against Mukoda, but the mage reminds him that even the entire Venan army can't defeat Fel. One team member thinks that only a dragon can fight as Fel's equal, and the Fenrir nods, saying that his last fight with a dragon was an even match. After Werner's team finishes glazing Fel, he asks Mukoda to sign their job request completion, and he writes his name on the paper. Werner tells him that they'll go their own ways from here, and they say goodbye to each other. Once they all leave, Mukoda walks to the Merchant Guild, planning to sell the loot from Fel's hunts over there. As he walks into the guild, everyone feels stunned by the oversized husky following him. He asks the attendant for registration, and she explains that the Merchant Guild is independent of any country. Then, she informs Mukoda that the guild has 5 ranks from iron to mithril, before giving him an iron card to set up his portable food stall. Mukoda takes the card and leaves after telling the receptionist that he'll come back to sell his loot to her. Outside, he parks his wolf in a stable while making lunch for both of them. This time, Mukoda puts some steak sauce in Fel's meat, which he enjoys a lot. Then, Mukoda puts a different sauce on the next serving, and Fel gets surprised that the same meat can taste so different with just another sauce. He tries a bunch of different sauces before settling for a nice garlic sauce. After feeding his partner, Mukoda makes a bowl of steak rice for himself and starts to eat, but Fel also gets interested in the rice. Fel enjoys the rice as well, which leaves Mukoda to make some more for his own. He feels grateful that the online delivery skill lets him enjoy good food in a boring world and heads to bed after dinner. Then, Mukoda remembers to prepare something before going to sleep. The next day, Mukoda heads back to the Merchant Guild, where he shows the receptionist his loot. She takes a look inside the bag and immediately leaves after seeing its content. As Mukoda wonders if he made a mistake, the receptionist soon returns and takes him to a private room, where the guild master reveals that his salt and pepper are of such high quality that they can sell them to the royal family. The guild master offers to buy all of Mukoda's goods and asks where he got them from, but he awkwardly tries to keep his secret. Noticing Mukoda's hesitation, the guild master stops asking and offers 10 gold coins for his goods. Mukoda is shocked, since he bought the spices for only a few copper coins, but the guild master mistakes his silence for dissatisfaction with the price. He raises his offer to 15 gold coins for everything, and Mukoda finally accepts, realizing he's discovered an infinite money glitch. After getting the gold coins, Mukoda heads for the Adventurers Guild and begins registering himself. The receptionist gives him the lowest G rank card before explaining that he needs to complete one quest per month if he wants to keep his membership. He nods and accepts an easy-looking quest to gather some medicinal flowers for the month. A